Napoleon, who conquered all of Europe, was defeated by a woman in a palace overflowing with gold. Amidst the most powerful men in Europe, there was one woman who managed to make the man who terrified the entire continent fall madly in love with her. This is not a war story, but a story of love, betrayal, power, and a tragic end between the most famous couple in history, Napoleon Bonaparte and Joséphine de Beauharnais. The beginning. Joséphine was not a princess, nor even a perfect woman. She was born on the French island of Martinique into a relatively ordinary family. She lived a simple life, but she was no ordinary girl, a hot and beautiful one. This young woman moved to France and married a French nobleman. Their lives became commonplace, but then came the French Revolution, which turned her life upside down. Her husband was executed at the end of the king's reign. She herself was imprisoned and was only days away from execution. But in a strange way, she survived. After her release from prison, she began to enter the world of Parisian elite, a world of parties, politics, and relationships, until she met a short, eccentric young officer, but one with a terrifying ambition. His name was Napoleon Bonaparte. At that moment, Napoleon was merely a rising military leader, but he fell madly in love with her. He sent her letters filled with passion and jealousy, even writing once, "Not a day goes by that I don't love you more." But the problem? Joséphine didn't love him the same way. Secondly, there were the betrayals. While Napoleon was fighting in Italy and achieving great victories, she was living a life of parties and affairs in Paris. Accounts say that Joséphine had several relationships with men during her husband. Napoleon's travels, the most prominent being with a young officer named Hippolyte Charles. When the news reached Napoleon, he flew into a rage. Imagine the scene: the most powerful military leader in Europe, defeating armies abroad, but unable to win the heart of a single woman. And yet, he didn't abandon her. On the contrary, when he became Emperor of France in 1804, he insisted that Joséphine be his empress. At the famous coronation ceremony inside Notre Dame Cathedral, Napoleon took the crown in his own hands and placed it on his own head. Then he crowned Joséphine before everyone, as if to say to the world, "I made myself, and I chose this woman to be with me." But behind all this glory, there was a problem threatening the empire. Joséphine could not bear an heir. Third, her divorce from Napoleon. As the empire expanded, everyone began to pressure Napoleon. France needs a son to carry on your name. And so, he was forced to make the most difficult decision of his life: divorce. In one of the saddest scenes in French history, the two stood before the nobility to formally announce their separation, and Joséphine wept bitterly. As for Napoleon, the man who had never feared war, he could barely speak. After his divorce, Napoleon married the Austrian princess Marie Louise and finally had his heir. But strangely, Joséphine remained the woman closest to his heart. Even after his downfall in exile, he constantly asked about her and remembered her. His last words before he died were, "France, the army, Joséphine." And so ended one of the most famous love stories in history. The story of a woman who survived the guillotine, became Empress of France, and then lost the man who ruled all of Europe.